Welcome to the Daily Items one-on-one series. Today's guest is Brian Wolfe, Vice President of Clinic and Physician Practices at Evangelical-Community-Hospital, interviewed by Eric Scicchitano.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Items one-on-one. I'm Eric Scicchitano, and today we're joined by Brian Wolfe, Vice President of Clinic and Physician Practices at Evangelical Hospital in Lewisburg. Did I get that right, Brian?
You did. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks for taking the time to join us today. I know you're extraordinarily busy over there.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So kind of where I wanted to start is, where does Evangelical Community Hospital stand today with respect to COVID vaccines and administration?
So Evangelical today continues to vaccinate individuals that qualify in the phase 1A category. We're providing both primary and secondary doses to eligible participants and really scheduled through the month of March here.
Can you let us know, about how many people have been vaccinated so far and where you're at with scheduling?
Yeah, so we've actually administered our 10,000th dose this past Friday. That was to include both primary and secondary doses. So roughly we've vaccinated 5,500 individual participants. This week we started to resume our scheduling process. We were challenged with some hurdles these last few weeks, both weather related and secondary dose Moderna related, where we worked with the state on a smoothing process over the last 3 weeks, and I really believe now we've corrected or overcome those obstacles. So we have resumed our scheduling process. We've added additional days here in the month of March, and we're going to be scheduling out through April for primary doses. And what we're doing to secure those participants is we've really had a wait list since the month of February. We were collecting names either through our online web portal or through a hotline. And so we're contacting those individuals directly to then schedule for these open clinics that we have resumed.
How long did that wait list grow? I imagine there were lots of people pining to get the vaccine.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, our list as of yesterday, when I checked in with our vaccine team, about 8,000 participants were on the wait list. And we hopeful in the next 8 days we'll get through, believe it or not, 8,000 phone calls. We have a communication system here that allows us to put calls out to individuals. So we'll hopefully quickly make initial contact with those individuals and see if they are still interested in a vaccine or have received a vaccine, and then get them scheduled.
And that kind of raises an important point that Evangelical has been trying to drive home is if you're on your wait list or anyone's wait list and you've been vaccinated, please call us and remove our name, remove the name. Explain to us why that's important.
Yeah, Eric, that's really important to not just Evangelical, to really any vaccine provider. Because for two reasons. One is if we know you've received your vaccine, we can take you off our list and be able to reschedule another participant into that slot. But also it helps us with our no-shows. At the end of the day, if individuals don't come to their appointments, we do as a vaccine provider thaw doses in anticipation for those individuals to come to that vaccine clinic. And should they not attend, at the end of the day, we do have a process of several individuals on that wait list, and that we know that we can contact at the end of the day. So if we have to pull 8 participants in or 10 participants to really make sure that really no dose goes unused. And we've been very fortunate at Evangelical to been able to provide both vaccines in the arms that are requested, but also not waste any doses in that process.
Is that something that you're finding you're having to do daily, is to go to that wait list, even if it's for, one emergency vaccination, so to speak? Is that something happening on the regular?
Yeah, I could say each clinic, as the clinic begins to wind down at the end of the day, we are trying to, schedule appropriately so we know how many are anticipated coming in. So again, we work really closely with our pharmacy. Our site, where we're administering our vaccines, are here at the hospital. So our pharmacy's nearby, and we can plan accordingly. So if we have to either thaw additional vial real quick, we can do such, or as I said, if it's thawed and we need to pull some folks in, we can do that as well. So again, we've been very blessed and fortunate in our administration.
And I know you've mentioned already that you're booking appointments now. into April, and you're working from the wait list. Give us a better idea of how long it'll take to get through that wait list before you start, before new participants will start to get the jab.
Yeah, so we'll continue to take names on the wait list. So if individuals are wanting to seek vaccine and they're eligible and in that 1A category.
Oh, you're still taking names for the wait list.
We are, sir. Yeah. So Eric, we're through our website or through the hotline, we are still taking names. So we actually haven't closed our portal. We probably receive on average about 1,000 requests per week. So as we work through this, 8,000 list, other individuals will call in that qualify as eligible 1A, and we'll get them scheduled in accordance of their slotting on that wait list. But back to your question, we on average vaccinate about 420 to 450 individuals a day. We feel comfortable with that, and we vaccinate 3 days a week. So on average, between 1,000 and 1,200 primary doses are given per week. So doing the math, it will take a few weeks, but certainly we ask that, again, patients are patient. And back to your question, I did want to make one other comment about making sure they contact to get off a wait list. It's really important too that participants, as much as they want to get the vaccine, is just to be patient. And if they have a scheduled appointment, that they really keep that appointment and maybe not jump between vaccine providers, so that if they can maybe get a week early, just wait that extra week and you already have a scheduled time. So it's just important to keep those scheduled days.
This might be the $1 million question, and maybe you don't have a complete answer for it, but I'm wondering, your insight, what's must happen with not only the vaccine manufacturers, but also the state and federal government to allow Evangelical to reopen these appointments? Is it simply a matter of getting more vaccine deliveries weekly?
So, as I said, we really worked with the state over the last few weeks on that smoothing process. I think the vaccine distribution has smoothed out and has been more reliable. We have received all dose requests that we've had these past 2 weeks. I think really this next step is where the state is headed, with potential for mass vaccination, some additional, other resources, as you will, other vaccine providers. I mean, that will be a real boost to the community as we move through, or as the state moves through that planning process.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're getting right now both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines?
Correct. We've received both Pfizer and Moderna vaccines to date. We have primarily, we have the ability for cold storage freezer. So the allocation for Pfizer, we've received mostly Pfizer since starting in December.
How cold is that freezer?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's cold. It's an ultra cold freezer. It's not just your traditional freezer. But we actually had the resources here in our hospital with the cold storage freezer. So again, working with the state, as a vaccine provider, we have the ability for cold storage freezer. Well, we wanted to receive Pfizer to be good stewards and allow the Moderna to go out to other vaccine providers that don't have cold storage freezers. So again, I think, Evangelical here just trying to be good stewards, not just to the community, but with the state and trying to help this process along.
What kind of investments has Evangelical had to make to, store and administer these vaccines?
From a storage capability, we had the means in place, but I would say that, from a vaccine personnel standpoint, this to run just our site as we're running it today, as I said, a little less than 500 vaccines a day, it takes about anywhere between 14 to 16 individuals to run that site. So we do use our paid personnel to do that. It does require us to alter or potentially impact some other services with pulling staff over to run that vaccine clinic. But it's important for public health, and we feel as an organization, it's an important investment to the community to be able to provide vaccines. So we've, reallocated staff out of other locations to support that vaccine site. But when you go through the process, you'll see it's been refined over time, and we feel we have a very efficient flow and process as you go through it.
We'll be right back with a quick break with more from Brian Wolfe of Evangelical Community Hospital.
So a lot of people like myself haven't been vaccinated yet. Can you give us an idea of what we can expect? Like, what should we bring with us, and what should we be prepared for as far as the experience goes?
Yeah, good question. So, as you prepare for the experience, you call in, you'd be scheduled for an appointment, initial dose appointment. When you arrive to Evangelical, you would be greeted by a screener. That screener will just verify your date and time of your appointment and ask you some general screening questionnaire questions. You then would enter the facility, and you'd be received by a registration line, which they'll take your basic registration information. You want to have, driver's license. You just want to have your available information from general registration for any appointment visit. And then as you go through the process, that following next step would be the vaccine administration. So you'd be administered the vaccine dose, provided a COVID-19 vaccine card. And on that card, it would state the type of vaccine you were provided, the date given, and then you would continue through that process to where you would wait. We have a waiting area where you'd wait anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes for recovery from your vaccine, just making sure you don't have any contraindications and you're healthy to move on. But while you're waiting to help take that time, we actually are scheduling our second doses at that time. And then you would leave with the back of your COVID-19 vaccine card with your second appointment. And then that same process repeats. When you would come back, if it's a Pfizer vaccine, generally it's within 21 days. If it's a Moderna vaccine, it's in 28 days. And so you would return the exact same process, with the exception you wouldn't get another appointment. You would just come in, you'd registration the same way. It'd be actually a little quicker because your information would be in the system, move through and be on with your day.
And I'm sure you've had a chance. Like, how often are you at the clinic, overseeing what's happening and simply observing?
Daily.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say to you that, if it's not myself, there's always members of leadership, rounding the CO, everyone takes time to go to that vaccination site and just make sure that the team's well supported and the community is being supported as well through that vaccination process. So I do spend a lot of time. I'm actively involved in this planning and operations process here at Evangelical.
Have there been any experiences where a patient did have an adverse side effect, like a significant one?
Yeah, actually very minimal. It's been very minimal in those that, experience, we're able to just treat and they're at the site and move on with their day. But yeah, very minimal, Eric. I'd say to you that, most things, it's maybe some tiredness, sore arm, nothing that isn't traditional with receiving your flu vaccine. But, I'd say that's probably the biggest is the arm soreness and fatigue, maybe that first 12 hours after vaccination.
So the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, sounds like you haven't used that at Evan yet. Does it have a future there at Evangelical? And how might you use that compared to the other two?
Yeah, so we haven't been provided J&J. The state has allocated its J&J Johnson & Johnson vaccine to other populations. So they're using that right now currently with the educational workforce, where they're working with the IUs. And as they expand on, which I'm sure is forthcoming with vast vaccinations and so forth, they'll continue to use that Johnson & Johnson. It is a little bit easier to administer in the sense that it is one dose, it's one shot, so you're not required to schedule that second dose. Storage is done with just a normal refrigerator temperature, so storage is a little bit easier. It does come in a multi-dose vial, so it does require you, though, to have a draw up or a draw of the vial. But as it relates to here at Evangelical, it's uncertain at this time whether or not we will receive allocations from the state with Johnson & Johnson, but certainly it's something that we continue to plan for. And again, we'll alter our current process as we receive the vaccine, much as we've done since December of this year when we really began vaccinating.
You've explained how the state is allocating that particular vaccine, and CSIU held its first clinic for educators over this past weekend. Actually, I think it went about 4 days, and they were expecting about 2,000 people. Did Evangelical have any role in assisting CSIU, in advising how they set up their clinic?
Yeah, early on, we had some discussions and just trying to help through. much like other organizations, they reach out and hear about what we're doing and how we've handled the process. So again, no proprietary information. Anyone that can learn from us and some of the challenges that we had early on, or even some of the wins that we've had with some of our processes that we've set up. So we're happy to work with and partner with any organizations as they, begin this process. So, we have shared in our best practices with the IUs and other organizations.
What has proven to be, one or two of the biggest challenges you've faced? Is it scheduling?
I think that probably, scheduling, having a process, for that initial call in, especially when we expanded to the phase 1A category, it was a large population. So we had to readapt our systems. We have a scheduling process that we had in place, but it was just a large amount of individuals calling at one time because they were eagerly waiting to get the vaccine. And over time that worked itself through. And really it was because, as we were able to answer phone calls and get people scheduled, we just moved through the line. So really it was a matter of everybody jumping into the line at the same time. But as the days went on, we were able to smooth that out. And we've been successful to get folks appointed and move them through the process. So yes, scheduling could be one component. And other than that, I can't really think of anything else that really comes to mind of a really unique challenge. Weather, I could say to you, was a challenge in the, being in central Pennsylvania, starting your vaccination process in December, January and February had its own unique challenges. So we certainly tried to play with the weather, and the days you thought were going to be the worst ended up not being the worst, as most folks experienced. And then the ones that unanticipated, you get an ice storm. So we worked through those. We worked with our participants, and if we had to reschedule any clinics, we got them in at the soonest availability, and we're able to alter schedules. So
you hit on how many people were rushing to schedule an appointment. And I think that was when the Wolfe administration initially expanded eligibility a bit. Did that overwhelm the call center at Evan?
I'm smiling with a yes. Yes, it was. We actually learned same time that the public learned of the expanded 1A. We had already developed our processes. We were actually in the process of moving to 1B, which was then halted, and we were moved, just continue in 1A with the expanded group. So we actually had much of our process in place, and so really it was just a matter of altering. And like I said, it was an incredible amount of individuals that, again, called at one time or over that series of hours in the very beginning when the scheduling opened up that Monday. And as I said, we smoothed through it, but it took a little bit of time. And we really appreciate the community and their patience. I know there were some frustrations. I myself have apologized, and other individuals to just kind of, again, work with it. But we're fortunate and been able to meet the needs of the community to date. So,
well, I think uncertainty and flexibility has been two big themes of this pandemic so far. And recently, President Biden directed all states to open eligibility, for adults by May 1st. That experience that you had back in January has to inform you somewhat on what you might expect if May 1st is the actual date and if eligibility, kind of opens up. What did you learn, and how does that help you prepare?
Good question, Eric. Yeah, we reflect on our processes, and we're actually right now planning for that when the state does decide to move us to a different category. I think much what we'll see over these next few weeks and into the next month is, a different state response. Again, I don't want to, speak too soon because I'm not involved in all those planning discussions, but as other vaccine providers come into the area, we're luckily here, we have had Wise Markets and other pharmacies have been able to administer vaccines. As we talked about earlier with the vaccine distribution, J&J really lends well for, grocery stores or pharmacies and so forth with a one dose. So it really helps out to really open up a network of providers, and whether that's through large community vaccination or they grow the vaccine provider list. But certainly I think that as we move into May, you'll see a different distribution pipeline and administration pipeline as well. as we move forward. But again, that's more to be planned, but we at Evangelical are certainly planning ahead for that state's next decision. So.
Well, Brian, one more for you. When you're out and about in the community and people recognize you and know where where you work and maybe what your responsibilities are, what's like the number one question most people are asking you?
When can I get my vaccine? I think is the biggest question. And I tell them that be patient and, work with, the vaccine providers. And honestly, when you are eligible, look to get on a list. If you want the vaccine, there'll be a vaccine available for you, and get on that list and get registered. And again, I've said it a few times on this call, but be patient, and your time will come and it will be available. So that's probably number one question I get is when am I going to be available? So.
Well, Brian, thanks for your time again today, and I appreciate it so much. And I want to thank all of you for watching too. Take care.